But of course, the rookie lookie is not the only thing you get on Thursdays. You get a lot more because it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for Prospecting with the Welsh. Look at that. There's Tom Hanks in a beard putting a pickaxe through the Welsh's head, and Welsh is kind of indifferent to it. He's like, whatever, man. It's just another day at the office. So, Welsh, this is the time where we dig into the prospect watch here. The guys down on the farm who are going to make an impact on fantasy baseball. So what do you have for the people? Where do you want to start today?
Well, we do have 4 names that we're going to talk about. The prospect articles available over on FantasyPros if you guys want to go and check that out. Now, I think there's 8-9 names on there, but I deepen the list of prospects to watch. So I'm going to give you a couple at the end, just a couple names to throw out that you should put on your watch list. There are more names that we're going to talk about that are on your stash list. But I wanted to ask one question because we had some graduates. We had a really good week last week. We obviously, Paul Skenes is coming off that list. Christian Scott came off the list. And Kyle Manzardo, who made his debut. I wanted to get your take before we jump into anything here of the overall prospect failure that's been going on. People losing their mind about everyone. Kyle Manzardo's got to come up. We got to get him up. Then he has like 5 strikeouts in the first couple. He's struggling. He's got a 60% K percentage to start off, hitting 125. Do you hold Kyle Manzardo or do you kick him to the curb?
Well, look, if you're in a shallow league, I think it's different. I think you can kick guys to the curb. Like Jackson Holiday comes up, he doesn't perform. You can kick him to the curb. It's a shallow league. There'll be a chance to get him back or what have you. But I think this is kind of an overall overarching issue where we talk about prospects and patience. It comes with patience, whether it be baseball, whether it be football. I remember a couple of years ago, everybody lost their mind because they were excited about all the running backs. And the second half of the year, all those running backs won people championships. If you waited, even Jahmyr Gibbs last year, right? In the baseball world too, it's such a long season where you have to think of it in the same way. You have to think of it as like, well, if they come up in April or in May and they struggle, it's not the last chance for them. If you're in deeper leagues, I think you got to hold. I always say this too. When a prospect gets called up, if you can flip them for a player that you know is very steady and solid, like if Kyle Manzardo came up and you could flip him for Alex Bregman, who has a track record of being good, I'd make that trade in a second. Why? Because there's a track record telling me this guy's having a bad month, but overall, I know what the numbers are going to be when I look at the back of the baseball card. So I treat the shallow league versus the deeper league differently. And if there's keeper implications, that has to enter into it too. Sure. But you're just regular old redraft leagues, you have to be patient. You're in a 12-team mixed league. I think you have to be patient if you made these investments. However, I think when you get to June 1st is when you start to lose patience, and then it's okay to get back in there because that's a third of the season done.
Yeah, and I would add, I think, well said across the board, talking in redraft terms, of course, for most of these guys, that the reason you get into the world of stashing, my idea, hopefully, is that you are stashing these players in a way that they are not meant to be right into your starting roster. They have a starting roster set, and these are more bench players, because what we see is these guys come up and people make these big decisions. Hey, should I cut, well, now you can cut Christian Encarnacion Strand, but people are like, should I cut Strand to do this? To make these moves with players that are not affecting your starting roster, it's easier to stomach some of the early difficulties. And we've seen some of that with Manzardo, but his hit skills, they're up there. They're going to get there. Who cares about 2 games? Also positive, they're talking about working him in the outfield a little bit. So stay patient if you can and make roster moves and make room for these players in a way that they are not desperately a part of your starting lineup where you're screwed if they struggle, because guess what? Prospects are going to struggle a little bit early on. So let's talk about the main crew here. And we will start with Junior Caminero, who I know we've talked a ton about. A couple notes on Junior Caminero. He has a hit in every game in May so far, at least as I wrote my article. He also had a 2 home run game, which was on May 1st, which is great, hitting .315, 6 homers in the minors so far. He has been solid. Here's one of the most interesting things to add in. And somebody posted this, I think it was in one of our Slacks or whatever, but the Rookie of the Year odds changed dramatically on Junior Caminero today. Went from like 2,200 to 1,200. That seems very, very telling. While there's been that article that's been out there about the Rays are going to hold him back, I'm going to give you a prediction date again, just for funsies here. Because someone said after my Paul Skenes prediction, they said, now do Junior Caminero. My Junior Caminero is May 24th. There's a home game. It's after a day off. That offense needs it. The Rays are putrid. I keep repeating myself. Yes, the Rays may hold them back. We don't know what they're going to do, but Caminero continues to play really, really well. He's not striking out a bunch. The homers are going. He's getting lots of hits, hitting every game in May. So I'm going to make a prediction of May 24th. But pay attention to those rookie odds, because why would those
Well, it's funny
change?
because on Sunday I made a point about, I said there's two guys. We did the rookie odds on Sports Grid. And on the TV show, I said, look, there's two guys you have to worry about right now whose odds have actually gone up way enormously, like off the charts. Skenes and Caminero both started out pretty low when they didn't make the team out of spring. Odds went crazy. And I literally just talked about both of them. And literally both of them in the last 24 hours have pushed completely back to where they opened almost. So
that's
very
right.
interesting there.
Bringing back up James Wood. Again, you got to remember when we're doing these segments, you're going to have guys that are going to turn back over. So if anything, it's important to come back to them and see how they've been performing, because James Wood, when I talk about prospects to stash, I do think we're getting to a more difficult range of levels of how much do you put into these players. I believe Caminero and Wood are the tippy top where you can sacrifice pieces on the roster. The rest of the guys, it's a little bit tougher to do. James Wood is that player that I would do it with. He's hitting .339 on the year, 4 homers, 8 stolen bases. On May 8th, put up a 2 home run game. A fun fact, by the way, all 4 homers have come in 2 games so far this year that he's had. But he's hitting .385 on the month. And if it wasn't for Jacob Young, that's playing center field, stealing bases at the front of that lineup, I think he would be up there. So they got to make that move here in the very near future. But he is the only other guy that I would put into that space where I'm really going to like burn roster spots from. The other 2 that are important as far as the stash world goes, Coby Mayo, who we've talked about a ton. His average has dropped down to .301, but he's got 11 homers, which is 3rd in the minors right now, which is crazy. But he has been struggling in May. He's hitting under 200, 4 of his 6 games in May, multi-strikeout performances. So I think he's going to be kind of built to like an infield injury, someone that's not in the outfield. And then Orelvis Martinez has been the other big one we've been all worrying about or wondering when he's going to come. He has not slowed down. He's hitting .294 with 9 homers on the year, and he's hitting .292 with 2 more homers in May. The low strikeout rate, I think, has been one of the biggest beneficiaries to him. And this is just about the Blue Jays making the move of like Kevin Biggio off the main roster. So once they do that, he will be up. And then finally, Joe, my prospects to watch list has gotten way deeper for everybody. So these are guys to pay attention to. It's 10 deep. I'm going to throw a couple at you. Will Warren with the Yankees. He should be the number 1 guy if they suffer any injury in that rotation. He's been solid. Max Muncy. Yes, another Max Muncy with the A's. He's in AAA.
We already have one of those.
I know, it's another one of them. And I wish
like
you would go buy a different
sweater
name
for Christmas, and you already have that sweater, and you go, "Oh, yeah. Great, a Max Muncy."
Oh, this will look good again. Maxwell Muncy.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, they brought up Jacob Wilson, who was just drafted. He's already at AAA. I think he would be better, but I think they'll give a shot to Max Muncy first. Darrell Hernandez just suffered an injury on the IL, so they might look to him. And finally, Adrian Del Castillo with the Diamondbacks. He's a catcher. I wonder if they play him in another spot. He's hitting like .340 in AAA right now, 6 homers. He's been awesome. He's a guy that could get a look soon. Usually the watch guys are probably more injury-based players, but those are some prospects for you guys to get in your brains if you're going to start stashing and making some moves.
And get them prospects in your brains every single Thursday with Prospecting with the Welsh. That's Chris Welsh. Maybe someday we'll get that pickaxe out your head, and then maybe start making some better life decisions.